I, 34 male, am a project manager. My life is about controlling chaos, fitting 100 moving parts into one seamless design. For 4 years, that design was my life with my fiancée, Isabel, 31. Isabel is polished, a product of new money that she and her parents, Alistair and Genevieve, were like ancient aristocracy. My family is not that. My dad, Frank, is a retired mechanic with grease-stained stories, and my sister, Maya, is a wonderfully chaotic artist. They are loud, loving, and, in the eyes of my fiancé, an embarrassment. The wedding was supposed to be the grand merger of our worlds, a lavish affair funded by a significant inheritance from my late mother. I saw it as using her gift to build my future. Isabel saw it as a feature spread in a society magazine. We were deep in planning, the budget swelling with every one of her demands, when we sat down to finalize the guest list. That's when she dropped the bomb that dismantled the entire project. We were in our pristine, cream-colored apartment, a space that felt more like her showroom than our home. I was trying to figure out where to seat my joke-telling Uncle Jerry. Isabel sighed, a sound of profound suffering. "Leo, darling, we need to talk about the list." She stared into her wine glass. "I was talking with Mother and Daddy, and we all agree. It's for the best." "What's for the best?" I asked, a cold knot tightening in my gut. She finally met my gaze, her expression a careful performance of sympathy. She whispered it, as if the low volume could mask the violence of her words. "Your family's not invited." I just stared, the ambient noise of the city outside fading to nothing. "What?" "The energy of your family doesn't really match the tone of the event we're creating," she explained, her voice gaining a condescending confidence. "It's meant to be an elegant affair, Leo. Your father, Maya, they could be a bit much. They're loud. They're embarrassing. I'm sorry, but it's true." The word hung in the air. Embarrassing. My dad, who worked 2 jobs to raise us. My sister, my best friend. The people who formed the very foundation of who I am. "So you're uninviting my family for my own wedding?" "Not uninviting, silly," she said with a little laugh that grated on my soul. "We just won't send them the formal invitations. We can have a casual barbecue for them the week after. It would be much more their speed, don't you think?" That was it. The final, clarifying piece of data. This wasn't a marriage. It was an erasure. I was a project, and my family was a flaw to be sanded down and painted over. The love I felt for this beautiful, polished stranger simply switched off. The project had failed. It was time for a controlled demolition. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I went into project management mode. I gave her a calm, placid smile. "You know what, Isabel? You're right. It's no problem." The relief that washed over her face was sickening. She thought she'd won, that I'd finally chosen her world over mine. "Oh, thank you for understanding, darling. This is going to be the most perfect day." "Yes," I said, "it will be." She chattered on about flowers and canapes, completely oblivious that I had just canceled our wedding in my head. But the 6-figure, non-refundable deposits from my mother's inheritance were not going to be sacrificed. A party was going to happen at that historic estate. It just wasn't going to be her party. The next morning, I called our venue coordinator, Clara. "Clara, it's Leo Franklin. There's been a change of plans for the event on October 12th. "Oh dear," she said. "Is it postponed?" "No," I said smoothly. "The wedding is off, but the celebration is on. We're rebranding. It is now the Franklin Family and Friends Appreciation Gala. The guest list will be changing. Significantly." There was a calculated pause on the other end. "Okay, and the bride is aware of this rebranding." "Let's just say it's a surprise," I replied. "And I need your absolute discretion. All future communications are to come exclusively to my personal email. A non-refundable event hung in the balance." "Understood, Mr. Franklin," she said. Phase 1 was complete. The new project was officially underway. Update 1. For the last 3 weeks, I've been living a double life. My days are spent orchestrating a party for the people I love, while my evenings are spent smiling and nodding as Isabel plans a wedding that no longer exists. Her blissful ignorance is my greatest asset. To control the flow of information, I created a new email address for streamlining vendor communications, telling her I would handle the boring back and forth to reduce her stress. She saw it as me finally taking the event as seriously as she did. In reality, I was forwarding her doctored email chains while the real planning for the Franklin Gala happened on my private channels. The entire event was rebranded. I designed new, elegant invitations inviting my family and friends to a celebration of the people who matter most, promising a special surprise. The 5-tiered wedding cake was redesigned into a classic buttercream confection topped with a sugar oak tree, a symbol of family. I changed the band's playlist from stuffy jazz to upbeat soul and funk. The most satisfying change involved the wedding favors. Isabel had commissioned 150 intricate, laser-cut wooden boxes, each bearing a swirling L and I monogram at a cost of nearly $4,000. I contacted the artisan. Is it possible to alter the I on this monogram, perhaps into an F? He could. By cleverly extending the lines, the I for Isabel was transformed into an F for Franklin. It was a small, symbolic act of erasure that made this entire deception feel justified. As the weeks passed, the entitlement from Isabel's family grew, solidifying my resolve. Her mother, Genevieve, called with a list of adjustments for the seating chart to prioritize her high society friends. And I must say, it's a tremendous relief that we won't have to worry about your family making a scene, she confided, her voice dripping with disdain. It would have been utterly mortifying. You made the right choice, Leo. I'm just glad we're all on the same page, Genevieve. I replied, my voice a mask of calm. I'll handle the seating chart personally. And I did. I created a perfect seating chart for the gala, with my father at the head table and my sister as the guest of honor. Isabel has been a dream to live with, floating on a cloud of self-congratulation. She's been absorbed in dress fittings and spa days, planning an extravagant honeymoon to the Maldives. A honeymoon I had already canceled, the $50,000 refund sitting safely in my bank account. She keeps telling me this will be the perfect start to our perfect life. I just keep smiling. The project is on schedule. The deadline is approaching. And the final unveiling will be a masterpiece of consequence. Update 2. The final month was a high-wire act. The project was nearing completion, but the risk of discovery grew with each passing day. The entitlement from Isabel's family became more brazen, as if they were making a final push to establish their dominance. A near miss 2 weeks ago almost derailed everything. The florist accidentally sent an invoice to our old shared email address, the one Isabel monitored like a hawk. The invoice detailed the updated order, including a new line item for a single sunflower bouquet for the guest of honor, my sister's favorite. It was a fatal clue. I saw the email notification during a work meeting and had to excuse myself, my hands shaking as I raced to log in. I deleted the unread message permanently just in time. A crisis averted by seconds. That evening, I told Isabel I was shutting down the old email to avoid spam, and she just shrugged, too busy admiring herself in a pre-wedding selfie. The next escalation came from her father. Alistair summoned me for lunch at his country club, the air thick with the smell of old money and smugness. After dispensing some platitudes, he made his move. Leo, I hear your late mother left you in a very comfortable position, he began. She want that money to work for you, for the family. I have a few private equity opportunities. I'd be happy to manage a portion of your inheritance for you. Think of it as your entry fee into the big leagues. It was a blatant attempt to get his hands on my mother's money. I appreciate the offer, Alistair, I said with a polite smile. But my mother's wishes were for me to manage it myself. His eyes hardened. I had failed another one of their unspoken tests. Isabel made the final play herself last week. She sat me down, feigning concern, to discuss the honeymoon budget. The $50,000 I'd allocated wasn't enough for the overwater bungalow with a private butler she felt she deserved. I was thinking, she purred, your mother left you those old tech stocks, right? If you just sold a small part of that portfolio, we could have the honeymoon we truly deserve. It would be an investment in our memories. She wanted me to liquidate my last remaining financial tie to my mother for a vacation I had already canceled. Let's get through the wedding first, honey, I said, patting her hand. We can reevaluate after that. Her pout was a storm cloud of thwarted desire. The final days were a logistical whirlwind. My suit was ready. The wedding rings were secured. Her 3-carat diamond would be going back, but I was keeping my father's simple gold band. I moved my personal documents, sentimental items, and half my clothes to a storage unit. My name was already off the lease for our apartment. My family and friends are all arriving tomorrow. They believe they're coming for my wedding, with this special announcement I mentioned on the invitation being a surprise tribute to them during the reception. The guilt of deceiving them is the only part of this that weighs on me, but I know they will understand. Isabel is at a 5-star hotel suite I paid for, getting ready with her mother and bridesmaids. Her texts are breathless and excited. Can't believe tomorrow is the day. It's going to be perfect. I replied for the last time. Everything is taken care of. It will be a day to remember. It certainly will be. The project is ready to be unveiled. Final update. It's been a month. I'm writing this from a new apartment, a place that is mine in a way the polished showroom I shared with Isabel never was. The wedding day feels like a scene from a movie I watched a lifetime ago. That morning, I got ready in a simple hotel room, a world away from the lavish bridal suite I was funding. I put on my suit, slipped my dad's wedding band on my finger, and sent Isabel one last text. See you at the venue. Can't wait. I arrived at the historic estate early. The welcome sign, in beautiful calligraphy, read the Franklin Family and Friends Appreciation Gala. Inside, the stuffy jazz band stage was empty. Instead, the sound of a funky bass line echoed through the hall. The favor boxes, with their proud L and F monograms, sat at every place setting. Soon, the hall was filled with the sound of my family, my loud, loving, embarrassing family, and their genuine laughter warmed the cavernous room. At 4:30 p.m. on the dot, a white Rolls-Royce crunched up the gravel driveway. Isabel emerged, a vision in lace and entitlement. Her parents, Alistair and Genevieve, followed, preening. They swept into the foyer and stopped dead. The scene was not what they'd spent a year planning. Instead of their society friends, they saw 100 of my relatives and colleagues. Instead of a string quartet, they heard the boisterous laugh of my Uncle Jerry. Isabel's face cycled through confusion, then annoyance, then a dawning, panicked horror. Her eyes scanned the room, desperately searching for a friendly face and finding none. She marched toward me, her parents trailing her like furious gargoyles. "Leo, what is this?" she hissed. "Where is everyone? What have you done?" I took a calm sip of champagne. "You said you didn't want my family at our wedding. So, I took your feelings into consideration," I said with a smile. "I canceled our wedding and threw a party for my family instead." "No problem." I picked up one of the favor boxes from a nearby table and showed her the altar monogram. I even kept the favors. L and F. Franklin, not Isabel. More appropriate for the occasion, I thought. The color drained from her face. Alistair lunged forward, his face purple with rage. "What is the meaning of this? You will not humiliate my daughter." Isabel made it clear that my family was a source of humiliation for her. I said, my voice cutting through his sputtering. "I've simply removed the problem. Since the non-refundable deposits for this event were paid for with the inheritance from my embarrassing working-class mother, I decided her money should be spent on the people she actually loved." Genevieve gasped. You devious little snake." "I'm a project manager," I shrugged. The initial project was flawed, so I revised the scope. The screaming started then, mostly from Isabel and her mother. Alistair threatened to sue me, to ruin me. I simply held up my phone. "I wouldn't, Alistair. You'd be surprised what a modern phone can record. A conversation at a country club about managing my inheritance, for instance." That silenced him. As if on cue, 2 discreet but very large security guards, prearranged by me, appeared at my side. "Is there a problem here, Mr. Franklin?" "Yes," I said. "These 3 people are not on the guest list. Please escort them out." The sheer, impotent rage on their faces as they were removed from the venue was a sight to behold. Isabel gave me one last look of pure, uncomprehending hatred before she was gone. A hush fell over the room. I walked to the microphone and told my family and friends everything. The demand to exclude them, the insults, the slow, dawning realization that the woman I was supposed to marry despised the very core of who I was. I ended by looking at my dad and sister. "So I canceled the wedding," I said, my voice thick with emotion. And I decided to throw a party to celebrate the only merger that has ever mattered in my life. The one I have with all of you. The room erupted. The rest of the night was a joyous blur. We danced. We celebrated. It wasn't an elegant affair. It was a real party filled with real love. The aftermath was swift and decisive. The locks were changed. The ring was returned. The story of Isabel's family being ejected from her own wedding spread like wildfire through their social circle, shattering their carefully constructed facade. Without my financial backing, Isabel's life of leisure evaporated. It was an expensive lesson. I lost a fiancé and a significant amount of money. But sitting in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and the quiet of a life that is truly my own, I've never felt more whole. I have my self-respect, my integrity, and a family that loves me unconditionally. The project of my life is back on track, and this time, the foundation is solid.